Hey, math people, you don't think you're done with calculus yet, right? You know that just because you finished Calc 1 and the first half of Calc 2 and you're technically done with the calculus of single variable functions, in goes x, out shoots y, doesn't mean you're done with calculus. What we got in front of us is still many more fun times to be had. We're going to be looking at the parametric equation, the vector function, and polar equations within this tail end of Calc 2. And then we pass the baton over to Calc 3 with the calculus of multivariable functions, which create surfaces, and the calculus of vector fields, and much more. But the idea is, just because we finished up single variable with in goes x, out shoots y, doesn't mean we don't have applications, many more applications of calculus that are a really good time. So let's get to it. Remember, this video is for you, Oliver. What does that mean? That means you should pay attention to the timestamps, pause when you need to. At 3, 2, 1, pause, you pause, and then also be patient and kind with yourself. Let's do some math. So we have been much too confined to this notion of in goes x, out shoots y with functions for far too long. What we're used to is passing this vertical line test where for every input there's a single output. That's great for machines. It's great for like programming. In goes some parameter, out shoots some whatever happens. And that's not the big whole picture behind how we graph curves generally. So consider how if I had some x squared plus y squared, and that's equal to 1. It's a unit circle. This doesn't pass the vertical line test, yet it's still a pretty useful idea, right? While it may not be a function, doesn't mean that we don't use circles. So that's the way of thinking when we analyze the parametric equation. Consider how it makes sense that as I walk on the ground, I have this left to right motion that is entirely separate and independent to this forward back motion. I don't walk around thinking I better make sure that when I assess the curve of my path, I pass the vertical line test. That makes no sense. So consider how it would make sense. What would make rational sense is to create this notion where we have an independent x to y equation. So in goes some variables, let's just say we call it time. So in goes some time variable, out shoots an independent x, in goes some time variable, out shoots an independent y. What we can then generate is just a set of ordered pairs that would create a curve on the xy plane that doesn't need to pass the vertical line test. So we have access to more things. So with the following example below, consider just some curve from -2 to 2, where you have two parametric equations, or a set of parametric equations, that will represent this curve C, we'll call it. For now, all we're going to do is just plug in just these integer values between -2 and 2. Plug in -2, plug in -1, plug in 0, plug in 1, plug in 2. You should get 5 ordered pairs. Plot those ordered pairs, and then follow the path that is generating each point in sequential order. So I'll give you a little bit of time to the table right now. Let's do it. 3, 2, 1. Table's light. In goes -2, out shoots 2. For the x value, in goes -2, out shoots -4 for the y value. So what that would mean is we would have the ordered pair 2, -4, 2, -4 as a point in my set of points that creates this curve from -2 to 2. That's what we're going to do now. Let's plot all 5 of these ordered pairs, and then what we'll do is we'll connect the dots, and we'll also like indicate the path direction. I'll show you what I mean by that. 3, 2, 1. You can see here that I plotted the 5 points, I connected the dots, and then I drew these like little arrows to indicate, hey, I'm going from here to here and not the other way around. And that sometimes can be helpful depending on the context, depending on what you need. Yeah, that's it to that. So the idea of a parametric equation set is very useful, very useful. Now, is it possible to functionify this curve to go back to the single variable in goes x, out shoots y idea? Sure. What you can do is you can substitute in, say, t is equal to y over 2. So how would I get that? I would be solving for t here, and then I can plug that into the x is equal to t squared minus 2 expression, solve using substitution. That's fine. I'm going to show that work methodology here right now. 3, 2, 1. You can see that's exactly what I do. If I plug in that y over 2 in for this t, I end up just getting y squared over 4 minus 2 is x. And then if I want to just solve for y, it's not that bad. I can scoot the 2, multiply the 4, take the square root, the thing to consider with the square root is that you're going to need a plus or minus in front of that square root. That's like the true inverse of the square function. And consider how that also makes sense with this very simple fact that this failed the vertical line test, right? And of course, you can't functionify something that fails a vertical line test as a single in goes x, out shoots y curve function. And that's by nature, right? That's by the design of why we have the vertical line test in the first place. So this would be two separate equations, and I'll show you what I mean. So here we're playing around with this parametric equation, t squared minus 2 comma 2t. If I just have some point working its way through, -2 to 2 on this curve, you can see that this is the path that it takes, kind of moving up over time. So if I were to graph just this x, f of x, where the square root of 4x plus 8, it would just be this top curve. And then likewise, I can consider that the bottom half will be the negative curve, and that's from that plus or minus. Of course, we would do some domain restriction in order to get a true match here, but the idea is that, sure, you can, but why would you? So we're just going to stay to parametric equations for the day. But, you know, you can go back. Depends on the makeup of the problem, I guess. All right, so let's just finally define what a parametric equation set is. So it's some idea where you have x as a function of time, or t, just broadly. It doesn't need to be time. And then y is a function of t, where you can package them as two separate equations, or you can write it. There's a few ways you can write it. These are just two different ways. I'm going to show you one more, but then there's at least like two more. This is the part of math where we like jump into the deep end with all the different notations we can write math as. At the end of the day, I am just making mouth noises and talking about scribbles on the page, right? So with the next little idea, you can think of it as an ordered pair. So like some x comma y ordered pair is f of t comma g of t, where we have some sort of interval for t. Sometimes it does run from -infinity to infinity, but generally it's good practice, common etiquette, however you want to word that, to define your domain for t. So from some a to some b, and those will generally be your endpoints, but not always. It depends on how the curve is made up and composed function-wise. So what I want to do is the calculus of parametric equations. Once we just do a little bit more familiarization, so here are just what I deem to be three pretty good parametric equations to know. The first one you better know. Think about what cosine t comma sine t was back in pre-calc or math 3 or trigonometry, right? 3, 2, 1. This was the circle, right? That's like literally how we define the unit circle, right? It's the unit circle, so fan favorite. And if we can play around with the coefficient, we can either make the circle wider and taller at the same time, so that way it would just be a bigger circle. But what if we only made it wider or only made it taller? What shape does that create? Think about that for b. 3, 2, 1. Creates an ellipse, right? So what I can do is I can stretch out the amplitude of y. That'll stretch the rubber band outward and tall y's, I guess. Outward doesn't really have too much context, so across the y-axis. Whereas if I play around with the coefficient of x, that would expand it horizontally. Those are the words I'm looking for. So y vertically, x horizontally. Next one, I don't expect you to know, but it's a cool shape. 3, 2, 1. It's the asteroid. So if you just make these both cubes, it creates a slightly different shape. You can play around with powers of cosine and sine. You get a lot of cool ideas that come with that. And then the last one, this one is a famous one as well. If you don't know it, obviously that's okay, but let's see if you do know it. All right, here it is, 3, 2, 1. It's the cycloid. So let me show you the cycloid. The idea behind it is that if you were to take a pen and a tire, and if you were to draw a circle, point, whatever, at some end of the tire, like where the tire touches the ground, as you ride the bike, car, whatever it is, that point on the tire will rotate. And actually, I'm just going to show you. It would rotate like this, right? You have some point on this circle here, and then the circle goes round and round. And what it then creates is this path, so the drawn point on the tire, that would be called a cycloid. So this is just one rotation of it. You don't need to know you should know the circle and ellipse, but the idea is you can get fun shapes with this that you otherwise would have either a hard time or not at all be able to with just functions and normal curves. All right, so the other way we can package this idea of parametric equations is through what's called the vector function. So the vector function is a way of collecting both your x and y as one equation. So you saw that there was a little bit of an issue with how I wrote the last two problems or notations, is that one was a set of ultimately two equations, and then the other was just some like ordered pair matching thing. So if you want to write this as a single in goes t, out shoots x comma y, the way we do that is through what's called a vector function. We use r for I don't know why, but we use r. So in goes t into this r of t vector function. And then inside it would be a set of vector brackets where you would just have some function comma some function. Sometimes we write this in what's called standard basis vector notation, and that would be written like this with what's called I hat and j hat. You'll learn what this I hat and j hat means later, but for now you can just think that first piece is just x, second piece is just y. We'll leave it at that, but in Calc 3, vector calculus and multivariable, we explain that a lot more. So for an example, we have like some x of t is e of t, and then some y of t is tangent of t. We can write this as e to the t comma tangent t in these vector brackets, or we can write it in, again, what's called standard basis vector notation. So it'd be e to the t I, and then plus, and sometimes we say I hat, tangent of t j hat. We sort of kind of, we will write things as a vector function with vector brackets in here, but I tend to stray away from using the ij and ultimately ijk notation because we do that generally for Calc 3. So I like to think of this chapter as that baton pass from Calc 2, which we're done with the integral calculus now, and now we're just applying it to the calculus to many different ideas. So we're passing that baton over to ultimately Calc 3, which is growing to be my favorite one, but I still have I don't know, I have some sort of fixation or some sort of nostalgia for Calc 2. I loved it in college.